Welcome to the deep dive. Today, today we're going deep into something you probably use every day.
Oh, yeah.
An Amazon product listing.
Okay.
And we're looking at this KitchenAid variable speed-corded hand blender
Okay.
in Empire Red. We're going to figure out why this thing is a top seller and why it's got that Amazon's Choice badge.
Yeah.
And we'll dig into all the little details you might miss on a quick glance at the page.
It's amazing how much this one page shows about Amazon's whole strategy, you know?
Oh,
From how they market stuff,
right.
how they ship it, how they think about what customers do, and even sustainability.
So let's start with the blender itself.
Okay.
This listing talks about an 8-inch removable blending arm, a variable speed trigger, a pan guard to protect your cookware, and a 3-cup jar.
Right.
And it even mentions a 4-point stainless steel blade.
Yeah.
Sounds like they're going for that this thing can handle anything vibe.
It really seems like they're hitting those key things that people want, like convenience and being able to do a lot of things with it.
Yeah.
And also, like, it's gonna last.
Right.
And did you notice how they present the Empire Red color?
Yeah.
It's subtle, but they're connecting this specific listing to how it looks.
Right.
And, you know, did you see that they have a 2-speed corded hand blender?
Oh, yeah.
And a cordless option, too?
Yeah. I was looking at those.
Yeah.
The 2-speed's cheaper, of course.
Right.
But not as fancy. The cordless one is tempting. But you pay extra for that freedom.
Yeah. Smart move by Amazon, though, offering all those choices within the same brand.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it easier for people to decide. Keep some shopping on Amazon.
Yeah.
And, you know, talking about making decisions.
Yeah.
What do you think about that Amazon's Choice badge as someone who shops online a lot?
Honestly, I fall for it every time.
Right.
If Amazon's saying it's good, it's got to be something special, right?
Yeah.
But I wonder what their criteria is.
Well, Amazon keeps that pretty secret.
Yeah. But it probably has to have good ratings, a competitive price, and be available for Prime shipping. They're not just giving it to anyone. It's a powerful little nudge, though, you know? They're using their authority to kind of influence you.
Right. And then there's that limited time deal countdown.
Oh, yeah.
Classic pressure tactic.
Absolutely. That ticking clock makes us panic.
Yeah.
Like we're going to miss out. And of course, they highlight all the Prime delivery options.
Yeah.
They even give you a countdown to make sure it arrives before Christmas.
Right.
It's all about getting you to click buy now without hesitating.
But there's something I found interesting. They say ships in product packaging. It's kind of weird for Amazon, right?
Yeah.
I always picture those brown boxes.
You know, it might seem counterintuitive, but this actually ties into their sustainability stuff.
Really?
They've been trying to use less packaging, and they've actually saved over 2 million tons of packaging materials since 2015.
Wow.
Think about how much cardboard that is. Shipping a product in its original box, even if it doesn't look as nice, is a small step toward that bigger goal.
That's an impressive number.
Yeah.
So even these small details like less packaging are part of something bigger.
Absolutely. And it's becoming a big selling point for people who care about the environment.
Right.
It's not just about price and convenience anymore. Sustainability is a key factor for a lot of people.
And speaking of keeping products around longer, they also mentioned product support is included.
That's a good point. If you can fix something easily, it's less likely to end up in the trash.
Yeah, makes sense. It could even make customers happier.
Right.
Okay, let's move on to something that always makes me a little nervous.
Okay.
The protection plans. They offer a 3-year, a 4-year, and even a complete plan from Assyrian.
Those protection plans are interesting. They give you peace of mind, you know, especially for something like a blender that you use a lot.
Right.
The Assyrian Complete Protect really caught my eye, though.
Yeah, what is that?
It covers past and future purchases for a monthly fee.
It's like a subscription for peace of mind. Kind of a brilliant business model. I'm always buying stuff on Amazon.
That's exactly what they're counting on. And it fits into a bigger trend we're seeing everywhere now. Subscription models are everywhere.
Yeah.
And Amazon is taking advantage of that.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to weigh the cost versus the benefit.
Right.
Would you actually use the protection plan enough to justify paying for it every month?
That's a good point. I usually skip those.
Yeah.
But maybe for something I use every day, it's worth thinking about.
Maybe.
And speaking of daily use, this blender has an amazing rating, 4.7 stars out of over 13,000 reviews.
Wow.
That's a lot of happy customers.
Those reviews are more than just a popularity contest. They're full of information. Amazon even uses AI to pick out keywords from all those reviews.
Really?
They take thousands of opinions and turn them into key themes like functionality, build quality, ease of cleaning. ease of use.
Wow.
Blend quality color value for money, even the pan guard we talked about.
It's incredible how they can get insights from all that data.
Yeah.
And I always love reading those little details and anecdotes and reviews. Like one reviewer who raved about how this blender obliterates tomato skins.
Yeah.
Perfect for someone like me who hates chunky tomato soup.
It's those vivid details, those personal stories that make you feel like you could use the product too and get those same benefits.
Yeah.
It's a powerful way to get people to buy things.
Speaking of buying things,
Yeah.
we can't forget about the compare with similar items section.
All right.
Seems helpful, but sometimes it makes me second guess myself.
It's that paradox of choice thing.
Yeah.
We think more choices will make us happier, but it often leads to us being overwhelmed.
Right.
And you're right, Amazon is really smart about how they show those comparisons. They want you to have enough info to decide, but they also want you to keep comparing,
Right.
which could lead to buying more stuff.
It's a smart strategy, but it definitely plays on our weaknesses.
Yeah.
It's tough to resist searching for that perfect product when we're bombarded with choices.
We need to set boundaries and be intentional about how we shop. Like, ask yourself, do I really need to compare 10 blenders, or am I just putting off making a decision? Sometimes it's better to just pick something good enough and move on,
Yeah, that's good advice.
instead of getting stuck in that endless cycle of comparing.
Right. It's about finding that balance between being informed but not overloaded with information.
Exactly. And speaking of information overload,
Yeah.
let's talk about targeted advertising.
Okay. We already talked about how creepy it can be.
Right.
What are some other bad things about it?
Well, one concern is that it might create filter bubbles or
Yeah.
echo chambers where we only see information and products that match what we already believe and like.
Okay.
This can limit our views and make us less open to new ideas or experiences.
It's like living in a personalized world where our biases are constantly being reinforced.
Exactly. And this can have big implications, not just for our shopping, but for how we understand the world and talk to people with different views.
So targeted advertising, while it seems harmless, actually makes society more divided.
That's a serious thought.
It is. What about the ethics of all this data collection and personalized advertising?
Right.
Are there lines that companies like Amazon shouldn't cross?
That's a tough question with no easy answers.
Okay.
On the one hand, data collection can make things more personalized and efficient.
Right.
But on the other hand, there's a risk of invading privacy and manipulating people without them knowing or consenting.
That's a
Yeah.
slippery slope. Where's
Yeah.
the line between personalization and manipulation?
It's a debate that's still going on, and there's no single answer. But I think it's important to have these conversations, to make people aware of the risks of data collection
Yeah.
and to push for policies that protect consumer privacy and freedom.
So it's not just about being smart shoppers.
Right.
It's about being informed citizens and taking part in these bigger discussions about data ethics and the future of technology.
Absolutely. And it's about recognizing that we have a role to play in shaping that future.
Yeah.
What we choose as consumers sends a message to companies about what we value and what we'll put up with. By making conscious choices, we can help create a more ethical and sustainable digital world.
That's an empowering message. It's not about feeling helpless against these big technologies.
Right.
It's about realizing we have power and using our voices to speak up for a better future.
Exactly. And it's about approaching these issues with curiosity and critical thinking.
Yeah.
We don't need all the answers, but we can ask the right questions and demand more transparency from the companies that collect and use our data.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this Amazon product listing, I think we've uncovered a lot more than just the features and benefits of a KitchenAid blender.
I agree.
We've looked at the psychology of shopping, the ethics of data collection, and the broader impact of e-commerce on our society.
We've learned that even simple choices like buying a kitchen appliance can have far-reaching effects.
Yeah.
It's about realizing how connected our decisions are and understanding how they shape the world we're creating.
It's about becoming more conscious consumers and active participants in building a future that reflects our values.
I like that.
We'll continue this conversation after a short break, exploring some strategies for navigating the crazy world of online shopping and advocating for a more ethical and sustainable digital marketplace.
Sounds good. You know, it's fascinating how this one product listing speaks volumes about how consumer behavior has changed.
In what way?
Well, we've gotten so used to the convenience and personalization that Amazon offers.
Yeah.
It's almost like they know exactly what we need before we do.
It's true. Free shipping, easy returns, personalized recommendations.
Right.
It's all designed to make our lives easier.
Yeah.
But do you think there are downsides to this, like, super smooth experience?
There's always a trade-off. While convenience is great, we have to think about the potential consequences.
Okay. Like what?
Well, for instance, the rise of e-commerce has really impacted local businesses.
Oh, yeah.
When we shop online all the time, we're not supporting the stores in our own communities.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of it like that. I know I tend to just automatically go to Amazon for most things.
Right, because it's so easy.
Ex
And that's the challenge, finding that balance between convenience and supporting businesses that are important to our towns and cities.
Yeah.
It's about making a conscious choice, even when the easy option is staring us in the face.
So how do we break away from that Amazon autopilot and start making more thoughtful choices?
It starts with being aware of it, paying attention to our shopping habits, and trying to support local businesses whenever we can.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of mindful choices, let's go back to those customer reviews for a minute.
Okay.
We talked about how they can be manipulated or biased,
Right.
but even with those things in mind, they can be a helpful resource.
Yeah.
What are some things listeners can do to really understand those reviews and make better decisions?
A good approach is to look beyond just the star ratings and really read what people are saying. What are they specifically happy or unhappy with? Are there any themes or problems that keep coming up?
Like if lots of people are saying the pan guard comes loose, that's probably something to pay attention to.
Exactly. It's about looking for patterns and then deciding if the feedback is relevant to you.
Right. And a negative review doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad product.
No.
It might just mean it wasn't a good fit for that person.
Exactly.
So it's about understanding the context of each review and looking at the bigger picture.
Right. And as we mentioned before, we should also be careful with those AI-generated keywords.
Yeah. They can be helpful for summarizing, but they can also oversimplify things, can't they?
Absolutely. AI is powerful for analyzing data, but it's still a machine. It doesn't always understand the nuances of human language and feelings. Like a review that's complaining about a feature might get misinterpreted as positive if the AI only focuses on keywords like powerful or efficient.
Okay.
So we should approach those AI summaries with a bit of skepticism and always read the actual reviews to get the full story.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, something else that always gets me is the compare with similar items section.
It's useful, but it also makes me so indecisive. It's that paradox of choice again. We think more options means more happiness, but it often just leads to feeling overwhelmed and second-guessing ourselves.
It's true. And Amazon knows exactly how to present those comparisons, don't they?
Oh, yeah. They want us to have enough information to make a decision, but they also want us to keep comparing,
Right.
which could lead to buying more things.
It's brilliant, but it definitely plays on our weaknesses as consumers.
It does. We're bombarded with choices, and it's hard to resist that urge to keep looking for the perfect product.
Yeah. We need to set some boundaries and be more intentional about how we shop.
I agree. Maybe ask ourselves, do I really need to compare 10 different blenders, or am I just procrastinating?
Right.
Sometimes it's better to just choose something good enough and move on,
I like that.
instead of getting lost in that endless comparison loop.
Okay. That makes sense. So we've talked about comparing products, but what about targeted advertising?
Yes.
We already talked about how creepy it can feel.
Right.
But are there any other downsides?
Well, one worry is that it might create filter bubbles or echo chambers,
Okay.
where we're only exposed to information and products that already align with our existing beliefs and preferences.
So we're just constantly reinforcing our own biases.
Exactly. And that can have far-reaching consequences, affects not just our shopping habits, but also how we see the world and how we talk to people who have different opinions.
So targeted advertising might actually contribute to a more divided society.
It's a sobering thought, for sure.
What about the ethics of data collection and personalized advertising? Do you think there are any lines companies like Amazon shouldn't cross?
That's a really complex issue with no easy answers. Data collection can be used to create more personalized and efficient experiences,
Right.
but it also carries the risk of invading privacy and manipulating people without their full knowledge or consent.
It's a tough balance. Where do we draw the line between helpful personalization and manipulative tactics?
It's an ongoing debate with no simple solution. But I think it's important to keep talking about these issues, to raise awareness about the potential dangers of data collection, and to push for stronger consumer privacy protections.
So it's not just about being smart shoppers, but also about being informed citizens and engaging in these important conversations about data ethics and the future of technology.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that we have a role to play in shaping that future. Our choices as consumers send a strong message to companies about what we value and what we're willing to accept.
By making conscious choices, we can contribute to a more ethical and sustainable digital world.
Absolutely. It's not about feeling powerless against these giant tech companies.
Right.
It's about understanding that we have a voice and using it to demand a better future.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive into this Amazon product listing, it's clear that we've uncovered much more than just the features of a KitchenAid blender.
We sure have.
We've explored the psychology of shopping, the ethics of data collection, and the wider impact of e-commerce on society.
And we've learned that even seemingly simple choices like buying a kitchen appliance can have ripple effects far beyond what we might initially imagine.
It's about understanding how interconnected our decisions are and how they contribute to shaping the world around us.
It's about becoming more aware consumers and actively participating in creating a future that aligns with our values.
That's a powerful message. It's not about feeling overwhelmed by these technologies.
Right.
It's about recognizing our ability to make a difference and using our voices to advocate for a better future.
Exactly. And it's about approaching these complex issues with curiosity and a critical mindset.
Yeah.
We don't have to have all the answers, but we can ask the right questions and demand greater transparency from the companies that collect and use our data.
So as we move into the final part of our deep dive into this Amazon product listing, let's remember that we're not just passive consumers.
We have the power to shape the marketplace and demand a world where convenience and innovation don't come at the cost of ethics and sustainability.
We spent this deep dive really exploring the world of an Amazon product listing.
Yeah. It's fascinating how much this one page tells us about how people shop, how marketing works,
Right.
and even the ethics of data collection in our digital world.
Absolutely. It's like this tiny example of how business works today.
It is. And as we've been talking about, it brings up some big questions about how we deal with all of this as consumers.
So let's change gears a bit and talk about some strategies our listeners can use
Okay.
to become more aware and empowered shoppers. What are some practical steps we can take to make better choices, especially when Amazon has so many options and persuasive techniques?
One thing we can do is be more intentional about what we need and what's important to us before we even open Amazon's app or go to their website.
Yeah.
It's helpful to ask ourselves, what am I actually looking for? What features do I absolutely need? What's my budget? What level of quality do I want? And are there any ethical or sustainability factors that matter to me?
So it's about setting those boundaries before we get carried away by all the recommendations and sales.
Exactly. And once we know what we want, we can be more careful about the information we pay attention to.
Okay.
Instead of just trusting those star ratings, we can actually read the reviews
Right.
and look for things that match our needs and values.
So it's about doing our own research and not just believing the hype.
Right. And maybe even looking for information from other places besides just Amazon.
Like what?
Well, talking to friends, family, or coworkers who have used similar products can be helpful.
Yeah.
And checking out independent review websites or consumer groups can give you a less biased perspective.
It's about getting a wider range of information
Yep.
and not just letting Amazon control what we know about products.
Exactly. And this leads to another important strategy:
What's that?
diversifying where we shop.
Okay.
Amazon is convenient, but they're not the only option out there.
Right.
Making an effort to support local businesses, checking out smaller stores, or even buying used items
Yeah.
can give us more choices and also help build a stronger economy.
And it helps us break free from just automatically going to Amazon all the time
Right.
and be more aware of how our choices impact our communities and the environment.
Speaking of the environment, I think it's really important to talk about sustainability when we're making buying decisions.
Yeah.
We talked about how Amazon is trying to use less packaging and make products last longer,
Right.
but there's always more that could be done.
So what questions can we ask ourselves to make sure we're being more sustainable?
Well, we can start by thinking about the whole life of a product.
Okay.
How long is it supposed to last? Can you get parts to fix it?
Mm-hmm.
What happens to it when you're done with it?
Right.
Can it be recycled or does it break down naturally?
Those are good things to think about.
Yeah.
And maybe even looking for brands that care about sustainability,
Yeah,
like using recycled materials or trying to reduce their impact on the environment.
exactly. And sometimes the best choice for the environment is to simply buy less stuff.
That's interesting.
Do we really need that new gadget, or can we use what we already have? Can we fix things or give them a new purpose instead of throwing them away?
It's about changing our mindset from just buying and throwing things away to a more thoughtful and sustainable approach.
I agree. And I think this brings us to a really important part of being an empowered consumer.
What's that?
Speaking up and making our voices heard,
Mhm.
the choices we make as consumers send a message to companies about what we care about and what we expect.
Right.
If we want to see more sustainable practices, more ethical data policies, and more support for local businesses, we need to let them know.
So how can people actually make a difference and advocate for these changes?
There are a few ways we can contact companies directly and tell them what we think.
Okay.
We can support groups that are fighting for ethical consumerism and holding corporations accountable.
Right.
And we can talk about these issues publicly to raise awareness and encourage others to make informed choices.
It's about understanding that we have power together to influence the market and create a better future for everyone.
And it starts with each of us making responsible choices, staying informed, and speaking up for the changes we want to see.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this Amazon product listing, let's remember that we're not just helpless bystanders. We have the power to change the way things work and create a world where convenience and innovation go hand in hand with ethics and sustainability.
That's a great way to put it. It's been a fascinating exploration.
It really has. And we hope our listeners have learned something valuable and feel empowered to make more thoughtful and informed decisions in this ever-changing world of online shopping. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.